Hello, Math112 students. I'm going to talk about your final grades, make some closing comments, and then wish you on your way to hopefully a nice spring break. A few things, if you do have any sort of questions about grading or your grades, please read all the comments in my announcement and watch this video. And I'm going to go through that announcement in a second, try to answer most key questions. Do note you can still talk to me. Even if there was some sort of weird grading issue, you could talk to me next term. Things can be adjusted. So there's not like an emergency. Anyone that is on the situation where their grade is on the border or below a 2.0, I have already reviewed all your information and looked at it carefully. But I'm going to address different groups of students. Please watch this all the way through as I'll try to answer several questions. So first, the exam went very well. We had many students get extremely high grades. From the beginning of the term till now, we have some dramatic improvement on test taking. So that was a huge success. Many of you basically said by your performance that this exam was very doable. We had 30 perfect exams. Okay. And then I've gone through and done the grades. The overall grades are very high. I've never actually given grades this high in this course. But after the first quizzes and exams, and I saw that kind of coming into this course, students were a little more deficient, a little less prepared. And because we were adjusting the nature of the content, I made several adjustments. I think I overcorrected, and it's led to much higher grades than I usually give for this course. But that's fine. It was to your benefit that we made this adjustment. But it would be impossible to say that the grades were unfair here. I'm partially saying a few things because I do have quite a few students that are messaging me asking for special treatment. I'm not going to reply to those messages. I can't give special treatment. I can't really entertain those discussions. It's unfair to the other students in the course, but I can't explain the grading policy. Okay, briefly. So how we do the grades, I've already explained in a previous video. If you missed that, you can read through the syllabus. This is from the syllabus. You can plop in your numbers here, your percentages, and then figure out what you have out of 100. And then I did in previous videos already talk about the grade scale. Now I've made the grade scale more lenient than it was going into the second exam. I did a full analysis. What I do is I look very carefully at anyone that has between a 60 and 70% percentage in the course. I regrade their final exam, I make adjustments, and then based off that, I decide where the 2.0 is. And then I go up and I look where the 4.0 is, and then I make a linear scale between them. And then I do some fine tuning and adjusting, making sure that, I don't have any borderline grades. I look at the 0.7. I don't really worry about the median. This is not a curved course. If it was, in our other calculus courses, they force us to have the median to be a 3.1, which means people that, if you were taking like our 124 class and you were at the median, instead of getting a 3.6, you would have gotten a 3.1. So these are very high grades I'm giving. I've already done all my adjustments in terms of I added 5% to the homework as I promised, and you'll see that in the grade book. You'll see that I made several adjustments. I try to make it very clear. So in the grade book, you'll see a thing called homework adjusted score. And you can compare that to your actual homework score and see that it's 5% higher, up to a max of 100. You'll see that I dropped 2 of your test preps. You can see your total test prep percentage in the grade book, so you can look at that. Ultimately, it's just these things, these percentages, but you'll see a final percentage when you scroll down through your grade of those things. You'll see an overall quiz percentage, and yes, I dropped the lowest. You'll see something called the low midterm and the high midterm. And what I do is, because I do that little adjustment I talked about in my previous video, I separate the two. I take your higher midterm. Your lower midterm probably doesn't change, but a few of you have a slight adjustment. The reason you'd have a slight adjustment is if you had one midterm that was extremely low, but the other exams were better. And that often means a small adjustment to the percentage, depending on how much better you did. It doesn't completely erase it. Again, I explained that in a previous video. All of these little things make it possible to pass without giving away high grades. If you want a high grade, you have to do well on all the things. Okay, Even with that, I've been going through, I saw students that had really low grades and still ended up with like a 3.6 or 3.7, which I think is more than fair. Okay, so I'm going to say a couple other things before we call it a quarter. And I hope you learned a little bit this quarter. I just have to say some of these things up front. I had students following me out after the final. I've had probably about 12 emails. It's a challenge, I want to say a few things addressing that and hopefully prevent further emails in that direction by going through the things I'm going to say in my course announcement. So I'm going to minimize this. This is what I say in my course announcement. It'll say, here's the link to the exam, which you can look at. Then you'll have a link to the grades. And then I say, don't email me. If you want to talk to me, it's better to just talk to me next term. So I'm just going to scroll through this and look at a few things as we go. So again, I'm not going to turn on regrade requests for the final because it often leads to students debating with me on there throughout the entire spring break, which makes for a miserable spring break for you and me. And as I said, I've already regraded everyone that's in any danger of not passing. So I save that. Some students don't like this, but I save that for the beginning of next quarter. You can ask me if there is an grading error. We can talk about it. But in my looking through the grading, if someone comes to me with a grading question, I'm going to look through your entire exam, not just the one you're talking about. And I'm going to consider all the pieces. And even in scanning through, I saw many situations where students probably should have lost more points. Our graders were great and lenient, which is fine. But I just want you to know that I have reviewed the grading and I did not see anything that is going to make a big difference in someone's grade. That doesn't mean you can't come talk to me. I just wanted to let you know why I'm not doing the regrade request. The final exam, we had 30 perfect exams. The median was 92%. 57% of the class got above 90%, so it was very doable. 12% of the class got below 60%. So that group is the one that I'm most worried about, in the sense that if you want to go on to a course that depends on this, you might want to consider retaking it even if you passed. But because of this, pretty much anyone that was getting above 60% of the final safely passed. Okay, some final exam stats. So again, these are the highest grades I've ever given for any course I've taught. And that's, like I said, that's because we made an adjustment to the material this year. So in that situation, I'm trying to make the grading scale to your benefit, since you had to deal with, the course being a little easier last quarter, and then we're adjusting the content. But 47% of the class got above a 3.7. That's really astronomical. I'm worried I'm going to get in trouble for that. 15% of the class got between a 3.3 and a 3.6. 12% of the class got between a 2.9 and a 3.2. 11% got between a 2.5 and a 2.8. 9% got between a 2.0 and a 2.4. And 6% is below a 2.0. Okay, so that just gives you a sense of the pieces. So you can see it's not curved. If it was curved, it wouldn't be 47% at the top. Okay. The university suggests the following for a lower level class. They suggest 18% of the class is between a 3.5 and a 4.0. We're over 50%. So if you compare with the general university guidelines, we're way over what it should be for a course like this. Again, that's why I'm worried I might get in trouble. But I just wanted you to understand these grades are somewhat outside of the norm. They're inflated. And again, I don't feel great about that. But I'm saying this because I have a bunch of students messaging me saying they want some special treatment. I can't do more than what I've done. I just had to set the stage and make it clear how it's supposed to be. Okay, I did account for all my grace and grading policies. I added 5% to the homework. I considered all borderline grades carefully. Some students message me and they say, well, I have a 84.9. Can you please round it up? There is a significant difference there. But again, my grade marks aren't necessarily at a whole number. But it's what it is. And the difference between like a 3.3 and a 3.4 is not significant. I did all the special treatments, people that were sick, missed an exam due to an emergency. I took account into that what I promised about the prorating your grade and dropping that exam, all of that's been taken account. This is none of this I do lightly. I take this very seriously. Okay, so comments for a few particular groups. Those of you that got below a 2.0, it means you're significantly below. I apologize you didn't pass the course, but it means that you got below or well below 50% on a lot of the content, and that just means you aren't ready for future courses. So that's when you should go talk to an academic advisor, make a plan, maybe take a course you're more interested in. A lot of people in this group, there's chunks of the homework they didn't do, or they scored extremely low on the exams. And that also tells us something. So just use that information and then talk to an advisor and see what happens. Again, I'm not an advisor in the foster school or wherever you're trying to go. So now would be a good time to talk to one, make a plan. Just be constructive about what you want to do. Find something you're passionate about here at the university. There's lots of courses you can take. For those of you that got a grade between like 2.0 and 2.5, I'm also worried about you. Oftentimes I hear from instructors that are like, hey, you shouldn't have passed this student. So I don't want to hear that. So if you're someone that just barely passed, I hope you learned more than just the content. Start your homework early, do your homework, treat your homework like a test. I hope some of my studying advice helped you. I really do have this goal of hopefully you leave my course with some skills that you can then build on in future courses. The group of students I'm getting the most emails from are the students in this kind of 3.0 to 3.5 range, because they really are saying to me, I need above a 3.5 or I'm not going to get into the foster school. I don't work for the foster school. I just made a couple posts on the discussion board directly about this. But my information I know from working with students who've been in my courses went on. I know many that had grades in this range or below that got into the foster school. A few had to reapply their second year to get in. But those students tell me, oh, the grade is not the main thing they take into account. They look at the collection of grades you've had in recent quarters, look at your essay, but I can't speak with authority because I don't work for the foster school. So you need to go to them. If you want help in this direction, what I just did is I made a post here, and I hope that your classmates will post on here as well with tips of how to apply, tips about people that have gotten in. What I really would like is you to come back later after you apply and tell me what worked, what didn't work, and share your stories with me so I can share them with future students. Again, the information I get is pretty much from students. The foster school is a separate college within the University of Washington. I'm not part of them. I don't get paid by them. So I'm with you together to try to get you there, but I can only do so much. So help each other out. But I can't change. I would get in trouble for being more lenient. I'm probably already getting into trouble. But I have many students saying, I got a 3.0. I don't think I'm going to get in the foster school. Will you please give me extra credit? I can't do that. Okay. That's one thing. So continuing on. I've worked with many of you in office hours. It was wonderful. Thank you for those of you that brought positive energy to that time and worked hard in this course. I know some people came with all sorts of different backgrounds, and I hope you learned a few things. If you do decide you need to take 120 or 124 or 125, I have a huge number of materials for that. The video stuff is stuff I've only been making the last few months. I am teaching Math 120 in the fall. If you want to keep track of what I'm doing with the videos, again, this has been a big this is not part of my job. It's just something new I'm trying. I've made review sheets for years, and you can still find all of those on my website, which you're welcome to keep toying around with if you decide to take any of those courses. But what I want to say here is I'm also making a channel of lots of stuff. And you can help me. Some students said, hey, it would be helpful if you posted some things about how to work with fractions. So I made that the other day. But if you haven't toyed around with this, my channel is getting pretty big because I have review material for all of these courses. I held review sessions for Math 124 and 125 this term as well, and 126 to try to help those students. But I really just want this to be a joyful place where students can learn. So you're not done with me unless you want to be. If you have more questions just about math in general, you can still ask me those questions here. I'll leave the discussion board open for a few more weeks, and you can just post questions here that you have. I would love them. You can also just see other things. I mean, I make all sorts of videos for my other classes, like how long are the seams of a baseball and things, all sorts of things I've asked. And that may or may not be interesting to you. But I would like by the end of this, before next fall, to have a collection of videos where people can review. So I have there like a collection of 5 short videos, and I'm trying to find the balance of, if I make a video that's more than a couple minutes, nobody watches it. So how do I make it short enough to hit the main concepts, but give people the skills they need to be successful to get to their goals in college math? So I could use your help in that endeavor. So I made a few short videos here. I'm just kind of experimenting, but your thoughts could be helpful in this direction. This is fun for me to try to find a way to get people to connect with this. What's sad is I already have people commenting negatively on there, and I always think, it's free. What are you expecting? I'm trying to help you. But anyways, online is its own thing. You don't have to help me with that. You can ignore all of that. I just wanted to tell you that, my ultimate goal is to make you successful, make future students successful, help you get on your way, go get into those majors, and then in a year or two be making more money than me and successful and having a great life. Okay. I do hope that you all can leave this course with a little more of a focus on learning, the joy of learning. Being at UW is not just about getting your degree and getting your job. That is a big part, and that's something you don't want to lose sight of. But I hope that you take some courses in other areas that are of interest to you, or maybe aren't interesting to you, but expand your thinking. I have found that the courses in college that I didn't want to take, I now think back on, and I've used them. I've used them in talking with people. It allowed me to connect better. I've used them like geology. I had to take a geology class, and I really didn't want to take it, and I didn't appreciate it. And then whenever we have earthquakes or we're on a hike, I realize all that information from that class is still really valuable to me because it tells me about the world around me. And I think about that. So I want to encourage you to embrace learning in all your courses. Take courses in other subjects. I think it has more value than you think. If you can think of education as more than just a transaction, you're going to enjoy being at UW a lot more. And I hope you learned a little bit in my course. And I wish you luck here in B. Okay, so that's it. I think I will not go through the solutions to the full exam. So many people did well. I think I'll have you come to me next term just so I can get these grades out now. Do review your exam, review your grades, and then have a good rest and break. And hopefully I'll pass you a few of you in the spring quarter. All right, thanks for a good quarter.